Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial cast. We have now got DFM taking this series 2-1 versus Sengoku. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Alex, by Mars Swan on the internet. Of course, I am joined by my lovely co-casters, host of the podcast, LJL Official Podcast. You should go check us out. Episode 8 came out a few days ago. Initialize and Nymera, the Have Good Brother duo combo. Wombo, as I say always, introduce yourselves.
Wait, you mean this isn't a best of 3 and DFM haven't already won?
No. Five games.
Oh no, I'm completely out of no.
Yeah, he's done. Now he becomes the worst.
It's over.
He can't cast a best of 5. He crashes after that point.
I'm on cooldown.
He's on cooldown.
Except for Rascal Jester CGA, you were able to do the full 5.
He's still on cooldown for best of 5.
Honestly, that was more like a spiritual journey in the following of our Lord Arya. Really.
Yeah, there was the dark heretics of Rascal Jester.
This is more like watching actually quite an intense rally of you know when you're watching tennis players and like they're placing shots left and right and they're trying to drag people around the court draft and stuff like that in this kind of game. I'm just like. There's definitely a lot of cerebral thinking going along from both these teams in terms of what they're trying to achieve with their drafts, how they're adapting to that. We've seen, like, for instance, the Morgana ban come out after game 1. We saw the Pantheon come out in the last game from Sengoku didn't quite work. I think next game they should ban the Renekton. I think that Ebby is doing way too much work on that. But where are they going to go with it?
Because that's my problem, Minutes. I think Sengoku Gaming, if we're following that tennis analogy, are slipping up on their backhand a little bit because Apperman has been struggling versus Ebby, who has been doing a lot more work over the last couple games.
I think that the last game it wasn't necessarily Apperman though. I think it was mainly Ebby just wrecking the back.
Yeah, well,
I mean, part of the problem though is DFM are just forced into banning these same 3 champions in the first round. It almost means they just don't even have a pick and ban phase because they have to just ban 3 champions. For the side of Sengoku, outside of that Heimer, they are pretty flexible. Is going to be making this pick and ban phase moving forward, especially depending on who goes to the finals and who goes into that semi-finals round, where these pick and bans are going to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's something to be said about DFM having to ban LeBlanc, having to ban Zoe, and we've criticized Seros for not playing those before. He's been having a pretty okay series so far.
I'd agree.
Not been like not been a liability, not necessarily smashing lane or really getting pressure in the early game. But his team fights have been very good. His Ziggs last game
very true.
More than acceptable.
And he survived. He did not die in that laning phase, despite repeated ganks, repeated attempts, and that's a big praise too, right?
It is, yeah. So I think that. Sengoku have a lot of different directions they could go in the draft because you know that, as you're saying, the first ban phrase from DFM is probably going to look like the same thing. I believe DFM are on the blue side yet again, so we'll see if they have a different first pick that they want to bring out against Sengoku or something like that, or if they just go for the same kind of thing again. And there's also stuff like if the set isn't banned, they'll first pick that.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of options for both of these teams. As we are a Blast from the Past stream, I think it's about time that we get into this pick and ban phase, less hypothetical, more actual. In 3, 2, 1. Good luck to both these teams.
And the hypotheticals becoming practical because we got some very practical bans on the table already. DFM once again on the blue side, Sengoku Gaming once again on the red side. All 4 games thus far are going to be on the same sides for both teams. Set Pantheon off the table for Sengoku Gaming. Also, LeBlanc, Zoe off the table for DFM. Feel like I've seen those before.
Sure, but worth noting that last game, the Heimerdinger was not banned, and it was not picked. It fell all the way through the draft of DFM. They did not deem it something that they wanted to pick up in that game. No. So maybe this now changes how Sengoku want to draft against DFM, knowing that because the Heimerdinger wasn't picked up, maybe they don't need to ban it. And once again, they're not going towards the Heimerdinger, they're going to ban out the Renekton instead, which is something which I was calling for.
Yeah, they do. And you've also got to remember that... if DFM pick up the Syndra once more time against Sengoku Gaming, and Pyrion is like, showing his Nocturne was a bit of a difficulty. They've just gone locked in that Syndra first pick. Pyrion, maybe he has to default back to the Orianna, and I don't know how he feels about that. If it does end up being flexed, that Syndra once again to the bot lane, and the Heimerdinger is picked into it, or or a Ziggs is picked into it, or even the Syndra could be pretty good versus that as well.
Well, the Syndra has been picked up for DFM, and Sengoku are locking in Varus, which did work for them in their game 1 victory. It didn't win. It didn't win for them in their second game, and of course,
some good numbers.
It put out some very good numbers regardless. And the Aatrox locked in for Appaman, but this time no Renekton to abuse it in the laning phase.
Look what has snuck through the draft though. They've decided that Elise wasn't the problem. It's going to be Renekton that was. So that means that Steel may well pick this up, and if Ebby gets something in the top lane that can push in, could see a bit of a repeat of the game 2 shenanigans.
So this is the first Elise game that we've seen during the series. It hasn't been picked yet, so we don't know whether it's a problem. They banned it away a couple of times. Skarner being hovered, I mean, like, there's the outside chance of something like a Skarner Triforce top. Ebby played this Gnar in the game 1 loss. Didn't have much of an impact that game besides some early game, almost good team fights from them. It is locked in, so they do have
with an AP threat though this time rather than just the pure AD. So there is that.
Yeah, there's already a lot of AP locked in, which means that Appaman will not be able to itemize as effectively if he does want to come into team fights with enough resist to survive Syndra and Elise's burst.
Means you can justify a Spirit Visage though, and that's always a lovely thing as an Aatrox. As Blank may get his hands on the Olaf finally. He's been looking to get on for that for a long time. It was one of DFM's early bans against him.
It's
locked in here.
Yeah, that was banned in game 1. DFM came into this series thinking that that was a worthy round 1 ban, and now we're going into the round 2 bans.
No, Aphelios picked up, right? Yeah, I suppose it's to allow the Syndra to be a flex still, I guess.
I believe so, and also just wanting to lock in that strong top side of the map as well. And like you said, the Syndra is that flex pick. Utapon, even though he had somewhat of a nullified laning phase where Totomiyashi and Enzi did come into team fights and do a lot of work on the Syndra.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think the A at the beginning of Aatrox actually should be pronounced more like the Wilhelm scream if it returns back to that second game performance. Appaman going to be looking to do a little better in that early game. But between a Gnar and an Elise, there's definitely room to seriously punish a top lane.
Oh, what's that champion? Which Sengoku are playing? Just incoherent screaming.
That's it. Aatrox. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
Okay, so we see Morgana banned away by DFM once again after the first game. They did not want NT to have that champion again. Aphelios, which you said had snuck through the draft, now banned away by Sengoku. Orianna, which you were saying Pyrion does default back to every so often, has been removed. So it's going to be a new champion for Pyrion, more likely than not, unless he does want to go back towards the Nocturne mid. I don't know if I like it in this composition against the opponents.
No, I'm not sure I do either.
But it's Thresh picked by Sengoku. This is Varus Thresh. A lot of pick potential there in the bot lane. Single target CC from the Chains of Corruption and the Death Sentence as well. Leaving counter pick for Pyrion in the mid lane, regardless of what is locked in there.
Yeah, and I think Olaf as well into the Elise. You're both quite good early game junglers. Utapon thinking about going towards his Ezreal is a bit safer. Is locked in, and I think also considering you kind of get the impression Steel's going to be wanting to play to the top side of this map, having an AD carry that's self-sufficient and can play weak side well makes a lot of sense.
Sure, and actually, in the very first matchup between DFM and Sengoku in the regular season, we saw that Sengoku went for an Olaf, and DFM responded with an Ezreal Thresh to make sure they had an AD carry, which was very good at being peeled away from on this Olaf, and that was while Ezreal was out of meta. Now Ezreal is one of these more priority ADCs, should be very much in the wheelhouse of Utapon going on to this match point game.
Oh, please lock in the Garen. That would be just wonderful.
Garen mids is apparently really high up in solo queue.
Yeah, it's doing quite well. It's been some pretty obnoxious. I think there's a lot of mid laners who have no idea what to do against it right now. It could be locked in, and I would be forever excited. It's going to be a Victor, and that makes a lot more sense. And you actually called for Pyrion to drift towards that rather than Orianna.
Yeah. So we've talked about what does Pyrion play if Orianna is banned and everything else, and I think like for me, I am of the opinion that a lot of these mid laners which don't consistently do much in the late game on Orianna should pick up a Victor instead, because he's just a little bit easier to get out the immediate burst damage and has a slightly easier ramp up to power than Orianna. Less dependent on hitting some skill shots, put it that way. Or easier to hit skill shots.
There's something to that. Okay, so we've got DFM with a very strong CC heavy top side of the map, a weak bot side, and you can see where the Elise is going to be focusing. For Sengoku Gaming, they have a lot of good team fighting. There's some serious zone control between a Varus and a Victor and an Aatrox for all the area effect and range they could want there.
So I think that in a straight up 5v5 in the late game, Sengoku win a lot of those fights. But as we said in game 1, when it was the poke composition, well, some poke coming out of Sengoku, one stray skill shot in this game, particularly Syndra's Scat of the Week, could end up turning a fight on its head, because there are a lot of people available to be blown up on the side of Sengoku in the Victor and the Varus. So if Seros gets ahead in this game, which we have seen him sometimes before, could get pretty dicey for Sengoku. And this is match point. Sengoku would not be winning the series if they won this game. They just even it up in 2-2, and we would go to Silver Scrapes.
Yeah, and
wait, Lexi, you better have that available.
Yeah,
if it goes to
throw that at production. And production's shaking his head at us across the microphones, and he knows what needs to be done. But before Silver Scrapes is even a concern, they've got to get past the Bronze Scrapes right here, because DFM are at match point, and they've drafted themselves a composition that is full comfort and full aggro in that early game on that top side of the map.
Indeed. Game on for Game 4 of this Round 2 match between our top 2 seeds in the LJL regular split, at least for 2020's season. We're going to see a 5-man spread out of both teams. Not for the first time today. Steel actually going to spot out Blank there on the top side of the map.
You're getting better at the level 1 for once.
He definitely spots out the Olaf here. I think that last game was another disrupted level 1, but on the Karthus, Blank really was slowed down more than Steel. This time on the Olaf, much harder to do that.
Yep, a lot harder to do that. Though, of course, if Olaf is invaded, and you know where he is, he does end his clear exceptionally low.
Oh, yeah, so Unofficial actually says that he got hit by a skill shot. Obviously, that's a bug.
That is a bug. What's going on? I'm supposed to do the damage in the early game.
No, I obviously dodged that. People can't hit me with skill shots. So, as is tradition, Lexia, are you around? Join us during this trying time. Lovely.
How are you doing?
Yeah, how's it going?
Okay, I was expecting more of a. You both were just like. He's saying he's here. I was like, I'm expecting an introduction. I introduce you both all the time, and then I get nothing. I'm just like, we just bring him back on. We just like get the backpack boys, open it up, and it's like, oh yeah, here's a cuddly toy.
Okay, give me a moment. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to.
Too late! No!
I am Samuel
No, you missed a chance.
My last one, the inimitable.
You already missed. Already.
Exquisite.
If I'm having to bitch and moan, then it's far too far.
Okay.
I am a little drama queen. I am acting as a princess.
I'm going for the casual cast today. You know, I'm just here like, yo, how's it going, Lexi? You feeling good about this game 4 and this completely hype matchup? You know, we're not, we're playing it cool.
I mean, okay. I don't like DFM's draft. I'm gonna be kind of controversial. I actually really like Sengoku's draft, and I really don't like DFM's draft.
So let's expand on that a little.
Yeah, I don't like the Gnar in this top lane.
Don't like the Gnar. Is there any particular reason you don't like it? Obviously, in game 1, it didn't work out, but it is a different matchup this time. It's not into. I'm trying to remember what it was in the first.
It was an Aatrox.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay, so
it was a different jungle matchup.
Yeah, it was with the Pantheon, so he could itemize better. Could Apperman. So this game might be a bit easier.
Maybe. I mean, I just really like Apperman's currently Aatrox, because that's how I pronounce his name. Instead of getting like Aatrox, it's Aatrox. I also really don't like the bot lane. I think Yutori Muashi is just gonna win this game. Like, just
there's something to be said about it. I think that a lot of so they tried to pick the Syndra as the flex pick, and then obviously the Ezreal came in, meaning that the Syndra went into the mid lane. I also think that it's worth noting that Apperman did have that weak Aatrox game in game 2 where he just got absolutely dumpstered. So maybe there's a lot of stuff to watch out for here. There's something to be worried about, like you said. Obviously, Apperman does have a lot of good Aatrox games. He's only played 4 champions this split. But yeah, something to watch out for.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on that as NT and Yutori Muashi are going to walk through this. There's a double bit of poke that's coming through. Ezreal and Tahm Kench at level 1 is pretty strong. We are back into game, so we have lost Mass 1, which is really sad.
Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it, as always.
But Ezreal, Tahm Kench level 1, allows for some tongue lashing and some mystic shots to come out and do some damage. Steel goes towards this top side. Yeah. It will be vertical jungling, but Steel's very happy to be on this side of the map.
It is, and when we were talking about, so this is vertical jungling with a top lane matchup, which isn't... Oh, okay, so Steel's actually going to not finish off the red buff there. That's... Okay, so he saw that Blank Empyrean had priority in the mid lane, and Blank ran across the mid lane to go get to that top side of the jungle. Advantage to Blank in this early game because he's managed to claim all of his top side camps.
Yeah, he has, and
just checked out with the axe there, just to check the Krugs were still up as well.
Big time, and we'll have to see whether Steel looks to go and punish Olaf on his blue side maybe, and go double blue buff into double red. But for now, actually, Sengoku Gaming taking big trades from the early levels here. They hit level 2 first, but that's a decent arcane shift of the appropriate level they came through for Steel. Steel, Utapon, I apologize. Wrong player on DFM. And that's going to be the end of that for now.
It will be. It's still a decent trade for the side of Sengoku. There are lots of pots still available for NT, and he procced his Guardian as well, so he had that extra little HP shield coming through in this early game. So priority in the mid lane, very importantly, one Blank his top side of the jungle. Priority in the bot lane means that Blank can go back to his bot side and not really fear this Elise either. It's only the top lane which is pushing in for DFM right now, and that's kind of inconsequential.
Yeah, Steel is in the mid lane now. He's looking to try and get on to Pyrian, who has got no cleanse this time. The Cocoon misses, though. But that's a decent stun back. They're going to try and get onto him anyway, doing a lot of damage. He does take a big health bar trade. He's got the teleport, though. May have to use it.
Okay, so he does have a biscuit if he does want to stay, but probably doesn't want to risk
another
hook.
Gang, but that's about it. They're going to try and trade back, actually, with some Devour stacks. At the end of that, and Blank going back into his jungle. Teleport burned by Victor, but it is burnt early.
It is burned early. It's not quite the 10.6 teleport where you do have that ridiculous cooldown in the early game. It will still be only on a 6-minute cooldown as compared to your flash timer, which is only 5 minutes. So I guess you could say, oh, the longer cooldown summoner was burned, but having a flash is always useful on your lane. As Steel might be looking for another dive in this series onto Apperman.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Might just try and tick over to level 4 first, or by picking up those Krogcats, and Apperman is trading back, trying to get out from under this tower as Ebby has transformed into Mega Knight. That will go down shortly. A good stun from the Wallop. And that will be the end of all of that for now. Ebby back in Mini now. Do they want to go for this? I don't know.
He's going to get a good trade here.
Yeah, it does get a good trade, and they're going to clear out this ward as well. Obviously, Apperman couldn't get towards the bush. He's been pushed in that hard.
I think that if that Hyper had landed for the extra burst, they would have tried to commit to something. Blank was there in time. Krugs was stolen away by Steel this time, but Blank is going to claim his red buff. It's been quite a while since that's been up. He's actually going to technically get a 3-buff start here, but buffs are not quite the XP that they were in seasons past. It's more about the other camps you take alongside them. As we see, once again, a bit of fighting in the bot lane.
Nice mystic shot there. That was
NG's actually taken a lot of damage now.
He has good trading back from DFM this time around, as the arrow does come through for Utah. She's gone for the Hail of Blades this time. His stack of choices, I choke a little.
Hopefully there'll be no choking from the players in this game. You told him actually going to get...
He's alone out here. He's got to be very careful.
Yeah, so Gang sniffs out the fact that Thresh had recalled, and Yusotomi actually does take a lot of damage for that fact. Gang was a player which I had a lot of eyes... Well, only 2 eyes. I only have 2 eyes, unfortunately.
Are you sure? Would you really want more eyes?
Yeah, all hell Cthulhu. All of the Eldritch Horrors. Give me more eyes. I need more eyes to see things. Anyway, I had a lot of eyes onto Gang in this series as a player to watch. He's normally a very strong playmaker for the side of DFM, but he's not had as much of an impact in this series as we have seen him in previous others in the past. His Thresh game in Game 2 was quite effective. And, Sarah's actually hitting level 6 here. This could be a kill.
A lot of damage. He's going to keep going forward. Takes a lot of damage this Pyrian as this Drake has started. Olaf is being contested by this Elise, who finds him in the bush. Takes half his HP, but NT's here. He's got that lantern up. He's going to come down. Guardian Shield. End of that little trade. But Pyrian, once again, taking massive damage in the mid lane, but has got corrupting pots.
And he had the biscuits as well. Yeah. So actually he's healed up a lot there.
He's down 10 CS, though.
He was down 10 CS because of that earlier reset at a pretty inopportune time. Victor, if you disturb his early laning phase, can get a bit of a rocky start. But, he still hasn't died. He still has his flash, and he will have his ultimate coming through to another fight if they do fight soon, and that will be an ultimate advantage over Saros, who did use his unleashed power trying to get that solo kill.
He did, but once again, Utoromayashi, with the pressure they've had in the lane, has come out to an early CS lead of about 10. Blank starting up this Mountain Drake one more time, and guess where Steel is? Here to try and contest as Utapon steps forward to get some damage onto Utoromayashi, but it's traded straight back. But Utapon also returns fire with a Mystic Shot, so
It was into a
even-ish
shield.
trade.
It was into a shield, so actually that didn't end up registering that.
Yeah, well, that's a shame.
So pressure and the wave positioning are on the side of Sengoku. Does mean that blank, even on his very low HP. It helps the Olaf with his clear speed. Anyway, we'll take the first dragon of the game, which is a Mount Trick. The next one will be an Infernal, so no Infernal or Mountain Souls for this game, both of which we have seen in this series already.
Yeah, it could be an Ocean Soul, could be a Cloud Soul, which I believe is our first soul of the game.
Yeah, that sounds
first soul
right,
of the series, rather. I apologize. Better way of phrasing that. And the trading continues. Early gold lead for Sengoku Gaming off some decent laning stats from this bot lane in particular.
Yeah,
and actually the jungle, looking at that.
Yeah,
Olaf does clear quite pretty fast.
He does indeed. Yeah, so that's like a good, 5 camp advantage for Blank right now. As we said, did get the 3 buff and a couple of extra camps to his name because Steel didn't manage to take much of the top side when they were trading vertical sides of the map. Apperman might be dove here, but he is backing off does kind of see the threat and is safe for now.
And Olaf
Steel is 2 levels down, actually. That's crazy.
It is a big deal. He'll be 5 after this camp, I believe. But for now, yeah, there's the 5. Does get that, but Steel now in a bit of a bad spot. Has to flash over the wall because that was great. But here comes Steel. And this Olaf who uses his Ragnarok. But he's getting 20 back onto for massive amounts of damage. Could just go straight down. He's going down the first blood. Ebby surviving for now. Does finally go down. What on earth was that?
Okay, misjudged the damage, I think, and then with the actual executioners picked up early from Hebby, a lot of the healing from Olaf just didn't come through, even with the Conqueror fully stacked there. I don't think he accounted for that.
No, he didn't, and I don't think Ebby's going to lose a wave either, because he was shoved so far in under Apperman's turret. At least it's a 1-for-1 in terms of the kills, but first blood onto this Gnar, who's going to go home and pick up a Phage as well, is pretty good going for him.
Also worth noting that, you were talking about Pyrion having a 10 CS deficit. It has evened itself out, actually, at 9 minutes in. It might have been due to uneven waves. When we saw that initial thing, I actually didn't check that.
Saros roamed up briefly. He turned way back, so that's probably what it was.
There are multiple factors to it. Steel actually gets a good burst combo, having the execute HP on the Spider Form Q, while Olaf was so low as well in this early game. Very, very relevant. We see a Herald fight!
And Gang had to burn his cleanser, but Apperman now in trouble. Had to use his, gets cocooned rather, and got lanterned out. As Gnar going in, that's huge! Gets onto Apperman, NT's in trouble as well. He's dead. Gnar picks that one up. He's probably going to go down for the trouble though, but there's a Devour, so he's on. As Saros goes forward with a flash. Blank now in trouble, has no Ragnarok, is just going to die here as well. Unleash power onto Apperman, who just about survives. Steel gets that tongue lash. And 3 kills out of nowhere for DFM, who win that team fight with style.
And that was so close to being a pretty good fight for Sengoku. Ebby got very, very low after the initial engage. What looked like a really big Mega Gnar actually only hit onto one person as a couple of flashes came in, but it was enough just to get that tanky front line in position there for this Herald fight. We see the Chains of Corruption importantly missing out as the cleanse came through to get Gang out of the initial try and counter engage from Sengoku. And then we see this here flash away from Yutori Mayashi, which gets him behind there. But the double wallop is actually more CC than his ultimate lands, and a Devour gets him out to safety as well. Pyrion has a fair amount of damage at this point, but it's not enough to finish off any kills, and then the extra range from the side of DFM does end up netting them 2 kills in this team fight and a Herald as well.
And Gang played that fight so well. What a clutch Devour, and that flash tongue lash for that last kill secure as well was real style moves.
That was SL-ick slick. Anyway, right.
I was not expecting the Scott Pilgrim reference here in the LJL, but here we are. There is no flaming succubus people singing songs in
You know what I try and do? I try and very quickly reference something and then just try and leave people.
But I'm not going to do that because I'm here to make it awkward and just dwell on it and just like make it
else is here to make things awkward? Ebby at a 2-1-1 on this Gnar.
Well,
we talked about how Ebby, we were kind of asking a couple of questions about his Gnar after game 1. It's obviously one of historical picks, but he didn't get the advantages we wanted out of him in game 1 when he was against this similar matchup for Apperman. This time he has himself up to a CS lead, has himself kills in his pocket as well. It's been working out much better for him.
Yeah, he is looking very strong at this point with that Executioner's Phage, got the Ninja Tabi as well, so most of these fights are going to go his way for now. Runic Echo is complete for this Elise as well, so he's at a pretty strong point. And we're looking at Yutori Mayashi, who's gone towards actually lethality builds, even without the Comet.
I was just asking myself that question. Saros lands a Scat of the Week into another Dark Sphere as well. Yeah, This is a Hail of Blades lethality Varus who's still gone for the Berserk Grease, so he still wants the extra attack speed from the Hail of Blades and the boots as well. Maybe this is a new build which he's been finding.
Ooh, good cocoon, but not enough damage because
you
NG
don't wanna
walked
commit to
away
that.
far enough. He does hook a Spiderling though, because Elise does have that opportunity to block things.
Blind is on the same side of the map as well.
Yeah, another stun onto this Victor, but Seros just backing away, keeping Perion away from the tower. And Seros has kind of been doing this, been drifting off to the sides with the pressure he's got to try and find his way to other fights, but Perion thus far been happy to stay in the mid lane, of course has the teleport to join if he needs to.
That he does. He's ended up
Teleport
surviving.
cleanse, by the way, currently are his summoner spells.
Yeah, he has Spellbook. I mean, he wants the cleanse for the Elise and the Syndra combo. Just cleanse out the first one, try and run away, and get your Q movement speed to really try and disengage from the rest of that. And then the teleport, of course, if he needs to reset on quick order. I think his flash is on cooldown anyway as of the moment, so you do want the other one off without your Spellbook summoner right there.
Yeah, Ebby, though, continuing this pressure in the top lane, about to get a second plate here as he gets a good wallop onto Appleman. There's that second plate gone. And the pressure that Ebby has had pretty much throughout this series is continuing.
Yeah, he's ended up finding a lot of good trades onto Appleman here, which has led to a 20 CS advantage right now. Herald is summoned mid lane, and actually no plates go to Seros there. He wasn't in range for them.
That looked like he must have been.
No, he only got 28 gold, and that was for
Wow.
a minion he just killed.
Wow, that's bizarre. There you go.
Steel would have got the money then, I guess. Or maybe no, if he wasn't in range for it. I'm
No,
pretty sure
Steel
they-
would still have been because he summoned the Herald. I'm not actually sure. We'll have to check over that gold and see what happened. But for now, it's just pressure on that mid lane turret, at least. It's gone down, but it wasn't the most successful Herald you've ever seen. Cleanse,
he's
burn straight away,
big
Perion's going
trade.
forward. But here comes the Elise, who's actually going to try and get over, but there's a gravity field there. Blanks around, has got the Ragnarok, might think about going for this, but at level 7 would be a bit risky.
There was...
Oh, big trade from Appleman. He's going to try and go in for some damage. Throws the Boulder out as well. And Appleman down to very low HP as Evie is here at the ranged form.
Yeah, it goes back to Minion there, and Seros actually had no flash in the mid lane. That's where I think that's probably why Perion wants to try and go for that harder trade. And I think that because of the pressure they now get, because the mid lane had to recall and doesn't have the ability to shove up the wave, get vision, and start playing around the dragon, that will be the second dragon going up to Sengoku. And we know what happens when Sengoku get early dragon leads.
Yep. But the pressure on towers is what DFM are focusing on right now, it feels like. They've gone towards the Heralds. They've gone towards getting Ebby into a position where he can start doing this. The tower looking mighty low up here.
It's looking pretty low. Plates are now not available. It's past 14 minutes in the game, and Appleman does have a TP if he wants to get back very quickly to defend that tower, but I think you probably want to save that for the next fight, which will be coming through probably at Herald in the next couple of minutes. As we see, these teams love to fight around that objective as well.
Iceborne Gauntlet in for the Ezreal. Not going for the full damage. I suppose there's enough damage from everyone else. It's cheaper.
It's cheaper and it buys space for... If you get a slow onto someone and then Gnar can get an ult, then it's very much worth it. But it is much less damage, and it means you are losing out on a lot of the scaling because of the extra stats which the Triforce gives you, because, you know, you don't get any AD from the Iceborne Gauntlet. You get a lot of... you get armor, you get some mana, and you get yourself the cooldown reduction. It doesn't really give you the same amount of AD or, of course, attack speed from Triforce as well.
Yeah, and as of course we'll eventually get the Muramana and the Manamune, of course, which will do stuff, but isn't there yet. And Utoromashi has got himself a Ghostblade completed, and with this poke build can throw some damage out at this Syndra and Ezreal in particular.
Will do indeed. Whereas we see the Ghostblade is completed for Varus as his first item. Sometimes we see the Ghostblade as first item on Poke Varus. Sometimes we see something like the Umbral Glaive. Either way, the Ghostblade gives you a lot of raw lethality. I think it gives you 18 from that.
Wow.
Actually, if you play with an Ornn, it increases the amount of lethality you get from that item.
That's quite useful.
Yep, is Yomi's Wraithblade. That's a big trade, actually.
Perion takes a big damage chunk there,
Oh,
but actually turns it
actually,
around with a good exhaust
exhaust.
timing. That Summoner Spell pickup. Perion's been pretty good with those over the course. Remember the first game as well, there were a few clutch Summoner Spells he had to avoid a number of ganks between cleanses and exhausts and all the rest of it. Ebby, though, is shoving in on this tower now. Found his way to another tower to
Has
continue to
himself a
push in.
full Black Cleaver.
Yeah, he's at a strong point right now.
He is very strong indeed, but Appleman just about wave clearing on that wave there. The top lane turret is still surviving as well, but there's a convergence of DFM members which are looking perhaps to change that as this Herald has spawned.
Yeah, and the vision is going to be cleared out by DFM. Blank is throwing out that axe, but all it does is start the Herald. He's still on vision. He's going to throw another axe out, and DFM might just let this reset. Yep,
I think for now they will. For now they will. Syndra had reset, so not available for the fight there. Has completed the GLP, which is why Seros wanted to reset at that point in time. Will be important for this first real big fight of the game. You have to think. Well, no, there's the other one around the other Herald. Everything's around Heralds.
Yeah, and it is a Herald of War is what this is, as the Drake, the Herald is started up by Blank. It's down about 8,000 HP. Seros is here in the mid lane. Ebby is down that bot lane. Apperman is waiting for a teleport. They are both channeled. There is no Narbar for Ebby right now, so he's going to have to think about it. Herald might well reset, you think. It's actually not. What? That's just not resetting. What is this?
Oh, the smite gets used. Oh, I think if they turn around and immediately burst it, it might have stuck there for long enough. Quit. That's some pretty close time.
Jones of Corruption missed, and that's another big ultimate down. Ebby's Narbar now getting to a significantly more dangerous state for Sengoku Gaming if they were to walk into this area. Red bar is warning signs for this Gnar coming online. Decent trade from both mid laners onto each other as Ebby's around. And Sengoku Gaming looking to force onto Utapon perhaps as they get first tower on the top side of DFM.
They do, and with the pressure, I've been using pressure then, but with the...
good stun from behind. That's a massive drag from behind. Apperman taking lots of damage. There's still an unleashed power that comes through and claims Apperman's life. And Seros actually gets out from underneath. Here comes the Tahm Kench as well. Mid lane under threat. Pyrrhion's going to have to back away. And DFM get a really clutch kill. 5-1 now in that score.
It's not a Baron dance, it's a Herald dance. It's the little brother of it, and gets them a outer turret in the top lane, a kill in the mid lane, and also an ultimate out of Pyrrhion as a disengage as well, meaning the Herald will fall to DFM as well. This is match point for them. If Sengoku do not turn this game around, and this early game, which has been going to the side of DFM, they are out of this round of playoffs. They will drop down to the lower bracket and face off the winner of our series, which is playing tomorrow between V3 and CGA. They do not want that to happen. You want the pride of going into that finals match, guaranteed, and not have to wait for, not have to claim your place yet again in another series.
Yeah, and there is some pretty strong members on the side of DFM. I want to highlight that Gnar CS as well, up about 50 right now.
That's crazy.
And while, Utamashi is continuing to farm well, has managed to maintain about a 25-odd CS lead, 35 potentially actually at this point, is actually still not pulling up all that much, even if he has got an item and a half. He needs to find more poke in these fights if Sengoku Gaming want to come out on top.
I was taking a drink. Sorry.
I gave you a really bad throw that I wasn't realizing you were drinking, so I'll continue to talk while you inhale. I was choking earlier. You saved me then. I did not return the favor, which was a problem.
And the question is, are Sengoku going to choke around this dragon fight? They have 2 dragons. If they claim this next one, that will be an avenue back into this game. Cloud Soul in this composition is relatively strong.
Pyrrhion takes a lot of damage. Has used the barrier. Has needed to. The Gnar has been hooked. Remember, he's got the Mega Gnar coming in. Is devoured out and will transform here, as the dragon is started already by Steel.
But they have to walk through this choke point against Ebby, but doesn't choose to go for it. The cocoon lands, though.
Yeah, and Ebby might have to flash his way out. He's going to use the repel. Seros is in behind. Pyrrhion has to flash out, and that was pretty huge. But look over the wall. Seros is in. Pyrrhion is out. Has not got he's just transformed, rather, to teleport. Has his second summoner spell, so we'll be able to rejoin. And that means that the Drake is still leashed. DFM still looking to get this teleport coming back in.
And Steel's pretty low as well.
Yes, but so is Blank. He's not in a fantastic point, and Blank just goes straight down. Olaf gets it, and the kill goes over as well. Sengoku Gaming, well played by them. They're actually at soul point.
And I have to say, Pyrrhion, every time that Seros this game has gone in for a heavy trade onto him, has had an answer. He gets out. He hasn't died this game yet. We've seen like 3 or 4 ultimates onto him. This time it nets them a kill onto Steel as he tries to go for the steal. It doesn't work out. It's a dragon and a kill to Sengoku. And Pyrrhion really just styling on Seros right now.
I don't know if that's entirely fair, but I will say that the use of the teleport and having that spellbook up was really close to get back into that fight. Big deal.
Remember back in lane where he just held onto his summoner, recalled, he didn't have to blow his flash. We saw it another time with the exhaust. We saw it with the barrier just then. It's happening in a lot of different times. I can remember all of these different times where Pyrrhion has managed to use everything in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, he's done very well to use those summoners on cooldown as best he can. Outside of the early use of the teleport, teleport, which was a little bit unfavorable. He's been pretty good with those summoner spell usage, that's for sure.
That being said, Seros is at a 1-0 and 2. 3 out of the 5 kills had his participation in it. Has himself his pen boots, GLP, and an extra Phoenix Codex as well, meaning that he is at a strong point in this game. Make no mistake, these mid laners are ready to brawl.
Yeah, and looking at Uchiromashi, not far away from a second completed lethality item as well, so he's not at a bad spot. Everyone was waiting for his Muramana transformation, but that is not in as yet. But when that comes through, he will be very strong as well.
Oh, huge, yeah.
And the Baron is live. Ebby's going forward onto Apperman, who's going to take a fair amount of poke trade
Frozen
here.
Mallet now.
Frozen Mallet is huge.
Oh.
And of course, the transformation means that the health
Turret shots mean nothing!
Mean nothing. And he's going to be forced away from the tower. That'll be set to be third turret of the game up to DFM, who are handily ahead in that kill score because Sengoku, we have no turrets right now.
They have none for the moment, even with some of the objectives that they managed to pick up. Victor will be heading up towards the top lane, trying maybe to change that fact, because Ebby is not going to be pushed into this game. He's 2-1 and 2, has himself the 2 split push / HP off-tank items in the Black Cleaver and the Frozen Mallet. He's ready to brawl as well. We talked about the mid laners. Of course, Ebby is another player who is very strong at this point in the game.
He's 2 level up on this Gnar compared to the Aatrox as well, which is pretty huge. That is a lot of damage. There's a lot of threat in that side lane, and that's a win condition in and of itself if DFM can split up the map. We know they love to do that.
It does. However, on the other side for Sengoku, 2 core items for both of their carries, the Perfect Hex Core and the Morel Nomicon for Pyrian, and then the 2 lethality items in Duskblade and Yomi's Ghostblade for Torimiyashi on the Varus. So these are 2 people where if they get to stand and put out their combos, will be winning these team fights. There isn't... Gnar has this HP, but that's not enough to survive all this burst right now.
But Utapon is now fully online. Muramana transformation is in now, and that's a big deal for upcoming fights.
And he has the Caulfield's Wallhammer and the Iron Boots of Lucidity as well. So at 40% CDR with the Muramana transform, like you said, not the Triforce, so not the most optimal damage output, but will be setting up for his team just about enough, really, in a lot of these fights. Yeah, you went oof at probably the top lane, right?
Yep, that's the one. That's about a 3,000 gold lead for this.
That is the gold lead, effectively. That is the gold lead.
That is just obscene.
That's just bleh. Yeah. And most of the rest of the gold lead actually comes from support there.
Yeah, and Gang has been playing really well. He did pick up that 1 kill onto Apperman, who is feeling more like an Appa boy right now. A little bit schooled by Ebby at this point. Has got room potentially for the Aatrox to do some stuff in team fights, but he's got to get there. And I don't know how willing DFM are willing to fight right now, because they're very happy with this Gnar split push continuing ad infinitum.
No, I think that if this goes on in the current state, we will see both of these inner turrets on the side lanes go down eventually for DFM. But the question is, after they go down, what can DFM do? Do they have a large enough gold lead to start winning team fights and force Sengoku away from their soul, or go towards the Baron, or will it just kind of peter out?
We'll have to find out, and I think we'll find out fairly shortly as well, because the Cloud Drake will be spawning on the Rift in about 40 seconds. Double stopwatch in the inventory for Sengoku Gaming. Look at Victor and Olaf. That's a big deal.
And there's a Cleanse and Flash on Pyrian too. He has very strong summoners for this fight.
Elise is about as strong as she's possibly going to get in this game, between the Oblivion Orb, the Runic Echoes, and a Phoenix Codex on top of it. She could definitely do a fair amount of damage at this point in the game. We've talked about Ezreal items. Banshee's Veil for Seros as well, which would be really useful versus this poke. A lot of these teams are ready and willing to go, alongside Yu Toromiyashi's double items as well.
So Guardian burned on Gang there, and Sengoku have found their way to the objective first. That's a big arrow to steal. If another one of those lands, I think that Elise will be dying if they do go for the steal, as we saw for the last dragon.
Dragon started, it does land, it's a big deal, but steals over the back. He may have to die for his sins if he decides to go in, but is still around, and DFM have got strong members. Ebby hasn't got an R-bar though, so that's not
another
the best
arrow's been charged, another arrow.
And it doesn't land though.
Hellstorm.
It's a big chains of corruption. Ebby has to go up. Steel has to go up. Is devoured. Stays alive. But the dragon actually resets. Utapon goes forwards. And actually Blank is also as low as that the Elise. Gang gets to heal up through the thick skin.
She's just hitting everything right now.
He is, but Ebby's now got the Narbar. He's going to try and land forwards. And it does go over. That's a Cloud Soul over. That's a big win for Sengoku Gaming.
Take a bow, Sengoku Torimiyashi just kind of bought you that with 3 pinpoint arrows onto the jungler of DFM, chunking him out, much like in game 1, buying them the objective, which gives them a route back into this game, even with their deficit. Sengoku have a team comp which can utilize this Cloud Soul very well. World Ender on Aatrox, Ragnarok on Olaf, Chaos Storm actually buying a lot of mobility for the Victor as well. And of course, you have throwing out your Chains of Corruption at the start of a fight, something which Varus does, and then having the move speed to kite around these fights will be very useful for you, Torimiyashi, as well. That's like 4 members which are very much looking forward to that increased move speed.
Yeah, and that is a really big call. And I would say I was getting a bit nervous for Sengoku Gaming there despite the early poke, because Blank got chunked out really hard at the end of that too.
But even then, he did have himself the stopwatch, another way to keep himself alive. And Ebby's Narbar was not at the perfect place for that fight.
That is always the issue with Nar.
It is, and he has found a lot of ways to impact this game, but not, unfortunately, during the objective fights. Having 4 dragons go the way of Sengoku, even with a lot of the fights going the way of DFM, is not great. We see level 15 on the mid lane is so high compared to these junglers and supports at level 10. They've managed to farm up and not miss pretty much any waves during this game.
Yeah,
these are very strong mid laners right now.
They are. And they could both do some pretty excessive damage. Perfect Hex Core and Morello Nomicon in for the Victor. Is the Banshee spell that GLP, a Sorcerer's Elixir picked up by Seros, who knows there's going to be a huge fight around this Baron. Impending, you feel.
So there is a bit of a trending opinion amongst some pros. I'm trying to remember if it was Nemesis or Malice that said it. So again, it's part of the LS crew, saying that, well, why aren't people picking up elixirs before the big fights? These are several thousand golds worth of stats bundled into a into this time-limited 500 gold pot. But if you're trying to go for these game-changing moments, they're so effective.
They are, and Sengoku Gaming continues to try and shove on this time. And Utoro takes massive amount of damage, and Ebby's in behind with a big Narbar. They've got the blue trinket to spot him.
But look how fast they are!
They are super fast, but he has to flash away as well. They've burned the ultimates, but that's all the teleports, all the flashes being burned there right now.
And you see the movement speed you get from the Cloud Soul after casting your ultimate. It does allow Torimiyashi to run away, does use his flash as well, unfortunately. Yuthbon sees the gap, takes the shot, takes a lot of HP out of Torimiyashi with it. It's going to lose them the mid lane in a turret for Sengoku.
Thinking about shoving a little bit further, because Ebby's already got big pressure on this side wave. He was shoving on that inhibitor turret just before that fight.
He ended up not using the TP, luckily, so still has that available for the multi-lane pressure. As we said earlier, Sengoku still have no turrets, and that might end up being important
Seros in potentially
when it
trouble
comes
here.
into these bigger plays.
They're going to try and get onto him. He's got flash, he's got heal, he's got phase rush. He's probably all right for now. They're not going to continue.
I was about to say, I think if Blank runs up there, even with the Spectre's Cowl, there's a good chance he gets a bit popped.
If he pops that Ragnarok, he does lose a lot of resists, and he may well need to do that if he wants to avoid the stun.
He did have the stopwatch, but I think then you don't want to blow that just on a play where you're not even sure it's going to work out. So, okay, right, and particularly with this time control available, you have no idea when that's going to come in. Only at rank 1 right now, so pretty short range.
For now, he's pretty close to level 11, though, this time. Genshin rank 2, Abyssal Voyage is a significantly stronger proposition.
It is, allows you kind of move from mid lane up to top lane in a quick order, short order, rather. That's how you do the idiom. So, DFM, going to play around their globals. If they do get that level 11 on time control, will help them alongside that. The Syndra is also happy to be sat in a side lane right now as well. No massive threat onto Seros as long as he's playing around the vision appropriately. There is a lot of vision, speaking of that, for Sengoku around this Baron now, though. They ended up, when they were pushing into that mid lane outer turret, which would have been their first turret of the game, that would have bought them a lot of pressure to play around the Baron, but with both of those structures standing in the mid and the top lane outer turrets, it's hard for them to find an angle to get into that pit and keep DFM out of their area of the map.
They are, and that's a big Ezreal ult that came across that. GLP lands Valkyria now slowed down. It's going to get stunned as well, but it's a good gravity field to stop that chase. Still using the Cloud Rift to move around very swiftly in that blue side jungle, trying to find his way to a flank. Remember, Torimiyashi, no flash, and doesn't have a cleanse available to him, so could get blown up if CC lands.
Yeah, but if he isn't locked in place, he will be able to run away after firing the Chains of Corruption, as we saw in the last one, and with the Guardian shield on Thrash alongside the Dark Passage, there is some shielding to come through to peel for him, and he has the Heal Summoner spell. So, you gotta make sure you stick the landing if you're gonna start initiating a fight, DFM, because Torimiyashi does have tools to get out of these fights.
Yeah, but Ebby
That's a lot of damage. Yeah. That was half his HP on one arrow.
That is Poke Varus for you. That is Poke Varus.
That is horrifying.
Ebby finds his way over to where Sengoku's Pyrion is. Stopwatching for this at least. We'll be going for the Zonya's sort of 2.5 third item, I guess, depends what you consider an Oblivion Orb. And that makes a lot of sense considering where all this poke is coming from. Has decided to go towards the stopwatch and not the Seeker's Arm Guard early, though.
Absolutely. I think that the next team fight could very well change the game, right? Because you have a Baron and you have an Elder Dragon. If you win that fight and if you win it handily, because someone survives because of a stopwatch and all this other stuff, it can change the flavor of this game completely and the series.
And the reason we're bringing up the Elder Drake is the fact it's spawning in 20 seconds. And that means another neutral objective to be playing around as Ebby starts split pushing against that last remaining outer tower for Sengoku Gaming.
Oh, it's a big chunk onto NC, but it's not going to be enough to really...
lands on him as well.
Yeah, but we have Edge of Night done for the Varus. We have a Void Staff done for Pyrion. There's a couple of items coming in for the side of DFM as well, most notably the Blade of the Ruin King for Utapon, which is had for a little while now. We'll see if any of these are a contributing factor in any large way to this Elder fight.
It's beginning to go down. It's already about 2/3 HP. Ebby is now teleporting, and he knows he can't wait any longer. That Seros stun just about missed. Blank takes a huge amount of damage, though. Has to Dark Passage his way out. Can't afford to use the Blast Plant, which is now popped. Utapon has found his way over that flank, does a fair chunk onto Torimiyashi, and the Elder Dragon reset. But DFM have position, and Sengoku Gaming are in a bit of an odd spot.
Ebby is level 17 right now compared to Appman's level 15. He will be very much better at diving the backline if he gets his Mega Gnar into a good spot. Perrin's looking for a chunk.
Oh, he's taking a massive amount of damage. Stepped way too far forward. Had to use the phase rush, and it wasn't phase rush. I think he just used his ultimate there to just use the Cloud to run away.
So Utapon once again finding an opportunity to jump forward. Pretty dangerous if the Devour didn't come out in time. He would have been chunked out instead of Pyrion, who does have a teleport available.
Steel just shoved that mid lane in there and forced Pyrion back.
But Pyrion has teleport. This is fine.
It is, but he's going to have to burn it, I think. And it means that the waves are pushing in DFM's favor right now. The bot wave is probably pushing against it. But apart from that, they've had to use that teleport.
That's teleport.
And Abyssal Void will be available for Gang, so he'll get back in fairly swift fashion. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
This is so tense right now. This Elder Dragon could seal the series for DFM or bring it to match point for Sengoku in the next game. DFM looked to push out mid, but they actually are going to return to the Elder as Pyrion once again goes back to mid lane to wave clear. Sengoku have been forced out of this objective area.
They have had to back Utamiyashi and Apperman in that bush though, and he has got Edge of Night now, does that Varus, and that's a big deal. Pops the Banshee's Veil on Seros.
It does, and that could be important, because if the Chains of Corruption land onto him, he has no cleanse, and there's only one Devour, so we'll see who and how the Devour works out and who is on in this fight. And the first tower of the game goes down to Sengoku during this madness around the Elder.
It does, and Pyrion is on vision. Got to be a bit careful about the flank he's going for there. DFM know where he is, and that's another aggressive positioning from Utapon. But you're right, the Devour is down for now. Be down for another 10 seconds or so, you imagine.
It's going to be down for a little while. Pyrion finding a flank here, and
that's the Storm! But he's got the heal, he's still alive, they can't get onto him. Ebby's in front. The grab field! The grab field was big, but can't get anything. Steel uses that. Zhonya's is still alive. It's going to be like Blank is now in trouble. Mega Gnar is huge! Does 3 people, and that's a bit decent. Ezreal across the side. He's found a great position. Ebby low, Pyrion chasing him down, but the Mortimer's shield keeps him alive. No one is dead yet. Gang's got Devour up again. Apperman now in trouble, taking a lot of damage. Arcane shifts over the wall. Blank taking massive damage from this Elder Drake, and that was a huge hook on Ebby. They finally get a kill. Arrows are big. Utapon survives. No W active, and I think this means the Elder Drake could well be going over to Sengoku Gaming right now.
Steel's still here. He has flash, he has smite, but the dragon is resetting. Okay, right.
Oh man, it's not done yet, but Steel taken so low, has to flash away from that arrow, and Sengoku Gaming actually might be in a position to win the game off this one play.
NC lands hooks, Torimiyashi lands arrows, and Pyrion had a godlike stopwatch, smashes it against the rocks to save his life. This is going to be one hell of a replay to start trying to deconstruct. There is no Devour in this clip. We saw Utapon jump earlier onto Pyrion with that available to try and get a lot of chunks out. This time, he's the one which really falls prey to it. Zhonya's used early from Steel, meaning that he can't really frontline after this point. It's a decent Mega Gnar, but with it not putting Pyrion into the wall, the stun isn't long enough to keep him in place long enough for Seros to blow him up. Gravfield lands onto Seros, which stops his involvement in the back end of this fight. Blank gets over the pit to start healing up off the Baron, so he gets out alive. And then basically the turnaround comes out from this godlike hook from NT here, which brings NT into the box, flashes forward for the end of that kill there.
Yeah, and it was really close, and Utapon Just about surviving. Actually, Sengoku Gaming now moving towards this Baron.
They
I
have
don't know
Delta.
whether DFM are even going to bother contesting. I think they're just going to let it go, try and fight once those buffs have timed out. Sengoku Gaming now at a fairly strong position, even with the gold lead. Doesn't steal with that ultimate.
It's always a little bit close when you... It feels a little bit weird when you kind of see those things fly over and it's like, oh, it was like 800 health in it. But the thing is that if one smite goes off just a little bit wrong, it can just end up being that last burst of damage to take down that objective. Sengoku have both of the big buffs in the game. They have a gold deficit still, but at 36 minutes in and items on their key carries, it is not as big a factor as it would be in some other games. So they are very happy to fight at this point in time, particularly with the Elder available to them.
They are, but they've got about 50 seconds on that Elder buff, so they've got about a minute of really extraordinary power. Ebby shoving in that side wave has now backed, got that wave pushing against Sengoku Gaming. They're going to need to see what they can get off this. They've got about a 1600 gold plus from this Baron thus far. And they've got about 2 minutes to play with on that.
And it looks like they're going to get the top outer turret as well. One of the things about the games where a losing team in terms of the amount of turrets taken gets a Baron means there's so much standing gold to recoup that gold lead. There's actually a Sorcerer's Elixir onto Pyrion to push down these towers as well. They've taken, I think it's just the one tower in this push because the tower went down in the mid lane outer when they were fighting around that Elder, although Apperman will take the bottom one shortly after.
He will. Warmog's actually onto Ebby right now, by the way, just to make sure he can stick around these fights a little bit and won't have that same issue where he gets hooked at the end of a fight and blown up. But Sengoku Gaming are going to continue the pressure. They're going for a 4-1 split. Another Ezreal ult comes across. Tickles, Pyrion, and Black not doing all that much right now.
Yeah, and one thing we were talking about earlier is the XP advantages that DFM had. It was a level 70 to level 15 Ebby to Apperman. Now they're evened up. Now we see a 2-level lead for Pyrion over Seros, and there was a slight XP lead for Yutonomiyashi over Ezreal on Utapon as well, although they are both level 16 at this point. Sengoku have managed to bring up the gold to parity and will reset with the last minute of this Baron buff.
And what a more fitting end to this game. It's so close. It could now go either way. DFM ran the early game. Sengoku game found ways back in the mid game around these objectives. It's the Cloud Soul for Sengoku Gaming, and that could be the difference maker right now. Neither base is broken, but there's a lot of very exposed inhibitor turrets.
And actually, the Cloud Soul this game has come up pretty clutch.
Huge.
Pretty clutch. It's not necessarily as visible as the Infernal Burst or the Mountain Soul with the extra shield on top of your health bar, but the Cloud Soul has meant that Sengoku have this extra room to maneuver, this extra margin of error which they might not have had without it. And with all of these champions which can use it so effectively, these team fights have been easier to execute on, which they weren't going so well for them in Game 3.
Pyrion has picked up the most gratuitous of items, needlessly large rods. For in that inventory, he's got 2 of them. He's very close to a death cap. And when he gets that, he is going to be an utter monster. They're still shoving in with a 4,000 plus Baron power play.
That's huge. And that's what we're talking about with these standing structures being so... such a gold swing. They kind of like money in the bank when you do get one of these Baron buffs when you're behind. And yeah, he is shoving. He has himself 4 items now alongside the Executioner's Call as well.
Force the recalls to stop, so I think Ebby might get a chance to get some serious damage. Yeah, I don't think he can stop Ebby, though.
I think he can because he is level 18 now. Yeah, he has level 18 now alongside 3 items. I think he can wave clear pretty effectively. Maybe you don't want to stand there for an extended laning phase, but actually that's a lot of damage on the tower either way.
Yeah, if Ebby gets even half a wave into that, I think it will die this late into the game.
Yeah, it will regen slowly over time. Inhib turrets will do that, but you have to then stay there and make sure it does have no damage going towards it, so it, that regen makes a difference.
And Death Dance is in for Ezreal as well for additional healing, which is pretty huge.
Fun facts, we have a mutual friend, Sam and I, who loves playing Death Dance Ezreal, and I kind of flamed him for it, and it has been built in a game which I'm casting. So I will have to apologize very profusely for that.
There he goes. I suppose it was built in 4th. It's CDI was that second Coalfield Warhammer went into that. It's more healing on top of Blade of the Ruined King. I can see that.
And it stops the burst coming through so easily, right? I mean, it does delay it and gives you more time to regen, and with the double lifesteal, it becomes even more so effective. Deathcap was picked up for Pyrion as well, and a Last Whisper picked up for Yutorimashi, which will both be very efficient items at this point in the game. Even Gang taking decent damage from that now. Although, I mean, Thick Skin is
Is a thing, yes. So how much that damage will actually stick is a different matter. Steel is still his best target, though the Zhonya's is completed will mean that lethality is significantly less effective.
Ebby keeps the split push up as well, and they got priority in the mid lane, although the bot lane wave is going the way of going the way of Sengoku. Dragon has spawned yet again. This will be the second Elder, and they're going to trade it for a lot of pressure.
They're going to just go for inhibitors, I think. They just don't think they need to fight.
No, they're going back for this now. They want to fight.
They are. I don't think it's going to be too late. It's going to be down to 5,000. They know what's going on. There's that control ward over the back. Steel's around. He's got the health. That's a different GOP. I don't know whether this is the right idea. Ebby's got that trade. That's a big trade. He gets it. No, he doesn't. Olaf got it. That means that's the Eldrick over. Steel will die for his sins. He's going to go down. But Ebby's going to get the inhibitor as a result.
But can Sengoku just go for the bot lane here? The wave is there. No, I think Syndra will get there in time to clear it out. It will be the top lane inhibitor traded for the Elder, but it is the second Elder, which means that the buff is at 2 minutes 30. It's a long time. It's half of a flash cooldown. So, it does kind of, keeping that in league relative terms, it is a long time. So, Sengoku have the chance to reset. The Baron is respawning, which means that if Sengoku choose to fight over it, they will fight with this uber buff of the Elder Dragon as well. No hook onto the Tahm Kench.
We're thinking about a pretty aggressive fight. Sengoku Gaming here to fight for this Baron, though they are all around this objective.
Saros on the bot side with
has no teleport. They just don't want to fight with the Eldrick. That makes a lot of sense. They just want to get as much map pressure down as they damn well can. They've got wave shoving, and that will at least stall the Baron buff for at least a little bit. If you do play with those waves appropriately, it can be pretty good. And Ebby, if he finds his way into a side lane, remember that turret in the bot side will be fairly low, even with a certain amount of regen available.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I really think Varus can define the pro meta for the next couple of patches. Without a lot of the AD carries which could bully him in lane being as strong as they were, stuff like Senna or Felios, it means that he is just free to kind of be the lane dominant AD carry that he has been in previous metas, and he gets to do it while choosing his build. This poke build has come up huge this game. It has helped them buy so many blinking red health bars throughout the objective fights. We actually see a Blade the Rune coming in for Ebby as his I'm trying to remember what that replaced there, but it came in for his Warmogs. He's choosing to go straight for the 1v1.
They're going for the split push.
Oh, this is dead though.
They're going to think about trying to end this game. Ebby's going to push. Can DFM stall? They're going to get a second turret here. They have a minion wave. Do Sengoku Gaming. They might try to end the game. Here comes the base race, but Ebby's teleporting back in. This is going to be the last fight you feel. Turrets are dying. Gang is so damn low. And I think it's going to be going to game 5. The Nexus is unexposed, and it's going to be GG. Sengoku Gaming pick this game up.
Bring on the Silver Scrapes 2-2 in this series. We're bringing it back to the desk. Mass Swan, we got another game.
Okay, so don't count out Sengoku, because they can do very, very, very broken things in a lot of different scenarios. Okay. Oh my, that is a very large Sam Hapgood, I see, right on my
headphones died.
Face.
I realized.
Okay. I did not set up a substitute. We will have to just have a game replay hanging out on screen for while things are currently editing. Briefly, if you guys want to quickly just cover while I do a little bit of production stuff over here.
I can hear you just about. I've got good hearing.
Okay, well, I'll just turn up my headphones and stuff, and you'll have to deal with that. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys who are watching. Yeah,
listen closely.
Listen very closely. Right, so, this brings us to match point. One of these teams has to lose after winning 2 games versus the other team. They are now at an even record of 3-3 throughout the spring split. We said they were 1-1 coming into this split in the LJL 2020. No, rather at the end of it. And they've done it. They've fought this series in so many different ways. We saw a very clean win from Sengoku in Game 1. It was very scrappy, but very dominant from the side of DFM in Game 2. Game 3 was probably our closest one at that point, but then the Game 4 topped that again.
Very close.
It was really back and forth. We saw some new tech with his Halo Blades poke Varus. Normally we see the Comet. I'm not sure if the Halo Blades was particularly impactful this game, but he did a lot of damage around objectives, so who am I kidding?
Yeah, maybe it was an on-the-fly adaptation. Decided, actually, I just need to go for the lethality with where I'm at in the game.
Maybe something like that. I was particularly impressed by Gang this game, unfortunately, on the Tahm Kench. He made a lot of these fights pretty uneven. He teamed up well with Utapon trying to jump forward on the Ezreal, but then, you know, sometimes you just get out-carried, and I feel like Pyrion was the person doing
really
so
good
much of that job.
Yeah.
I said kind of midway through the cast, which I'm not sure you agreed with me, that I thought that Pyrion was styling on Seros. I'm going to stand by that, actually. I think that Victor was so strong, and he was playing to his limits on the defensive end of things, which is something which you don't always appreciate as a spectator, because you kind of see them kind of like big burst trades coming out and people kind of flashing away from stuff, and then you wonder whether that was needed or not. And he did the opposite of that. He held on to his summoners very well that game.
So I think I somewhat disagree, only because I don't think it was versus Seros. I think he just played the team fights exceptionally well. So I think it was largely actually versus DFM.
I think we should go back and watch how many unleashed powers were very well mitigated.
But I just think that particularly Pyrion played those team fights exceptionally well and used his summons very well in that space, and that was, I think, the advantage for him there was hugely in that space.
How are we going, Lexi? You feeling okay over there? Do you want to see if your headphones are gonna do anything?
They may well not, I'm afraid, for now.
Well, you should probably maybe you should just join the Discord call and just.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I fixed it. It looks like we have a display again. It doesn't matter. Just needed
you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna rejoin the call now and mess it up again.
Oh, I've now got a scene for if everything breaks. I've got a if it all breaks emergency scene. So it's all fine for me, honestly speaking. I just was not able and prepared for that, as I hope things work, relatively speaking. But hey ho, it is what it is. With that all said, we have a penultimate game to have. Silver Scrapes will be coming in for our lovely listeners and viewers for this whole break and for the whole time that I briefly talk before we go into our game. So expect the lovely music that we are all expecting for how League of Legends games go. I want to just remind everybody